need themselves. You have founders who are struggling to figure out how to acquire users, different types of journeys. So it always helps to understand where they're coming from, rather than judge them and then be aggressive about it and then point out mistakes. Always try to find a common ground and figure things out together, rather than just accusing founders of why they're failing, why they're ending up in this situation.
Today we're joined by James Conde, who's in investor relations at Plug and Play. He's been there at the fund for about 2 years, and he's doing an amazing job at his work and getting Plug and Play more known to people in APAC region. So let's discuss a bit about your journey to Plug and Play APAC. Like, what's the investment thesis behind, say, the US fund versus the Asia fund versus the Dubai fund? Like, any differences or any novelties or anything you could share regarding that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Roohi. Appreciate you taking the time. So happy to share more a bit about what we do at Plug and Play. I guess I can start off with my journey into Plug and Play. Quite straightforward. Saw an opening online, applied for it, and then went through a few case studies, and then met the team and fell in love with it, and still here after 2 years. But I guess leading up to that, I've been with a few funds before Plug and Play. Worked with a few startups as well before that, on the software side, the data side as well. And then eventually moved on to VC, wanted to explore the other side of it. It's quite interesting because right before Plug and Play, I was at a crossroad whether to be still in VC or move to more startup operator roles. So I was exploring between those two. And then after a while, I got an email from Plug and Play, and I took that as a sign to, maybe there's still something good I can do here. So yeah, I've been with Plug and Play for 2 years now. Maybe about our investment thesis. Maybe I can give an overview about Plug and Play first, and then go further into our different set of thesis. I guess Plug and Play has been a while since 2006. Started out in Silicon Valley by our founder, Saeed Amidi. Initially, Plug and Play, or I guess Saeed, was renting out office spaces to early stage employees of PayPal, Logitech, Radar, and Google, and then eventually he invested in these companies. And then afterwards, he bought a big building to do the same thing, house startups, invest in them, and work with them. And that became known as a Plug and Play Tech Center. So been around since 2006, been doing investments since then as well. Maybe something that people are not quite clear about Plug and Play is that we do two things. We do investments, early stage investments. Our thesis is pretty standard globally. We do around pre-seed to Series A or pre-A at most. Average check size of 100,000. We can do less than that. We can do a bit more than that depending on the round as well. And when it comes to the verticals that we look at, you can see it's quite agnostic. We don't really have a preference for verticals, mainly because of our second business line. So maybe I can share more a bit about that too. So when we started out in Silicon Valley, we were housing hundreds of startups, your future unicorns, innovators. Corporates started reaching out to Plug and Play. They wanted to work with Plug and Play. They wanted to embed them into their ecosystem, wanted to work with them, find innovations, and then eventually run new products. So that became a sort of a new business for us, corporate innovation. So we started working with different corporates, your Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, with their innovation teams. And that's when we introduced our startups to them, whether we invested in them or these startups are part of our network. So we run different sort of accelerator programs with these corporates. So there's no Plug and Play accelerator. It's mainly us driving these accelerator programs for the corporates. So that's why when I say that investment thesis is quite agnostic, it's because it's mainly driven by the corporates that we work with. And thankfully, we work with a lot of corporates. In terms of vertical, we are working with corporates that are in sustainability and crypto and healthcare and fintech, insurance as well. So pretty wide selection of corporates. So that's why when we make an investment, we also have thinking of whether they can have a synergy with the corporates that we work with. So it's always looking for the corporate validation. So yeah, I mean, long story short, we are agnostic, but the agnostic part is mainly driven by the corporates that we work with. So we can have a few hundred corporates in different verticals, and we can invest in those different hundred verticals as well. So yeah, hopefully that's succinct way to put it.
Yeah, that was really interesting to hear the history on. I read that the investments in PayPal and such must have had some massive returns for the fund, though we won't get into that today. So let's talk about some. Since we already kind of covered like the early days, like you kind of explained the history as well of the fund and stuff like that. I think now would be a good time to kind of get into some of the like descriptions regarding like the founder meetings. So what have been some of like these unexpected founder meetings that you've had, and like what are the qualities that have kind of blown you and the team away in those founder meetings?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, we do come across a lot of founders on our day-to-day, especially whether it's looking to invest in these startups or looking for them to collaborate with their corporates. We meet with these founders nonetheless. I can't really pick out anything at the top of my head right now, but I think some of the more those meetings that have left an impact on me are meetings that got me excited about what they're building. Because a meeting can be, it can be one way, a founder just sharing about his startup, what they're building, their solution, the market that they're targeting. It can also be two-way, where the founder tries to get you excited about it, and it works. So I can tell, I guess, the decent founders from those that are, I guess, less decent, or those are still trying to figure it out versus those that have figured it out. And those who know their customers, those who are obsessed with their product, who would rather talk endlessly about what they're building and the customers that they're targeting, as opposed to their past history, as opposed to about themselves. So I would prefer to sit with those founders who are obsessed with their customers, because you can definitely tell the difference between the great entrepreneurs that will overcome anything versus a salesman who's just trying to sell you something. So no specific moment, but I've come across a lot of founders who gets me excited about their own product, about the customers that they're targeting, but the story that they tell, and that just makes it more interesting to be in this space. Gives you more reason to stay as well.
So then a follow-up would be like, how do you kind of get into like the character behind the people? Like, how do you distinguish like who's a great founder from who's a not so great founder? Like, is that a muscle you build up over time, or something that your own like founders of Plug and Play have kind of distilled in you, or like how did that kind of come up?
Yeah, I don't think there are specific metrics. There's no secret formula to figure out who's a great founder, who will be a great founder. Because if we do, then I think we'd be making billions by now. But it's always about I think going to the core of what a founder is building, and really understanding what are they actually, who are they actually targeting. I'm sure YC has gone through a lot of these things. A lot of different funds have talked about it, but it's always founders that are looking for a problem to solve rather than building a solution and then looking for a problem. So I don't have, I mean, it's also still a muscle I'm trying to build to distinguish good founders from not so good founders. I think the more important thing is just to meet as many founders as you can, talk to people, get feedback from other people. And some people in the industry have been around for a while. Some of them have been here for 10 years, 15 years. So it's always good to hear from these individuals, like what are they seeing, the transition from your wave 1 of startups, wave 2 of startups here in Singapore, in APAC. So I think a lot of it involves around feedback from other people. So just trying to get reference or referrals from other people when you're talking about specific founders. So, I mean, having one meeting is not enough. to distinguish whether they're good or not. So I try to get feedback from other people as well on how their encounter was with different founders.
Of course, of course. I think that's a lovely way you put it. Like, it's not just that one meeting. You have to have a series of meetings with the founders to eventually discover, like, is this the person we want to back? Is this the person we want to put money behind? And so, how do you kind of build up that conviction? Like, how does Plug and Play build up conviction in these founders? And where have been some instances where you've kind of built up a really kind of strong conviction that, you know, this is the founder that I want to back, and this is the person that I want to put my money behind?
I guess Plug and Play is unique as opposed to other funds in a way that, yes, founder profile is key for us. But I think the other thing that we look out for is, as mentioned, right? Like in terms of our business line, we do early stage investments, and then we also have corporate innovation. So for us, apart from the founder fit that we have, we also look for corporate validation as well. So that's why before we make an investment, we always try to see if there's a synergy with the startup and the corporates that we work with. So we try to get as many feedback as we can. We try to work with our corporate team. We try to get to work with our different corporates around the region, and even getting feedback from our global team as well. If they're trying to, approach the solution on a more global scale, can they penetrate the EU market? Can they penetrate the UAE? Can they penetrate the, I guess, American market? So it's good that we have a global landscape for Plug and Play. So everyone gets a say on which founders to back, what startups to look out for. But I guess in terms of founder fit, corporate fit, I guess these are just some of the key things that we look at when making investments. I don't think there's any specific thing for us. I guess that's what makes us different from other funds, is we always look for corporate validation apart from the founder fit. I guess the founder fit is a baseline for us. Like if the founder makes sense, if what they're building makes sense, and then we also look for the corporate validation as well as part of that.
I think Plug and Play has, as you mentioned, like I'm just learning now also about Plug and Play a bit. It's got a very unique kind of methodology behind selecting the founders that they back, and also it has a very unique way of model, like of operating. So let's just get into now the culture. So I bet they have a very interesting culture as well at Plug and Play. I mean, you have a global office, you have people working from home, people coming to office. So how do you manage all of that kind of culture, and how do you also hire for culture? Like what qualities do you look for in the candidates? And yeah, like if you have had any experiences also from your own personal recruiting process, also like if you could share that if you're open to it, then also do feel free to share on that front as well.
Yeah, sure. I think on the culture wise, Plug and Play team, I'd say work wise, we're quite flexible, right? Even though we have these separate teams segmented into our functions, right? We have the ventures team that does investment sourcing for startups as well. We have the programs team that executes all the accelerator programs that we have. We have the corporate sales team that does work on the corporate front. But despite these different verticals, you're also jumping around different roles, right? Just to serve as a client or to work with the startups or to assist them in getting to a different program. So I guess culture for us, I'd say it's a pretty good culture. I don't know what's a good way to describe it. It's fun. I come to the office almost every single day. We don't have a strict office day policy. I think there's just a minimum days that we have to be in office, and the rest we can take it from home. But apart from that, yeah, like what you mentioned, we are a global team. So some of our team members will have calls with the US office. Some of the teams will have calls with the I'd say the UK office, or even the India office, or different locations as well. So it's quite, you got to be able to manage your schedule as well in terms of getting on all these meetings. We're quite, I'd say, in terms of the culture, we try to be collaborative. I mentioned there are different functions, and it doesn't help if you're strictly just doing one job. And I guess that goes for any other organization, right? Like if you can wear more than one hat to assist and make it more.
I guess you can kind of talk about that again. Like
Okay, sure.
that would be good.
Yep. So I mean, in terms of the characteristic that we look out for, well, I mean, two things on top of my head, right? Curiosity. We work with a lot of corporates that are in the different verticals, as I mentioned. We have partners in finance, we have partners in insurance, we have partners in banks, sovereign wealth funds as well. We have partners in the government sector, and all of them are looking for different things. They can be looking at Web3 technology. They can be looking at AI technology. They can be looking at blockchain ecosystem. So it helps that if you can be curious and you're not just fixed on one knowledge sector, right? Someone who's curious would be open to exploring different types of verticals. One day you're doing health, next thing you're doing AI, and then you're figuring out, I guess, synergies between both verticals. So curiosity helps a lot, especially if you're going to be working on different projects for the team. Although we do have specific verticals, like we have a team that's focused on fintech, we have a team that's focused on sustainability, a team that's focused on deep tech. There's still cross sections happening between different verticals. And I guess curiosity is one thing. The other thing would be empathy. I mean, earlier on, I talked about talking with founders, meeting founders, and what's a good quality to assess these founders. I think for me, it's always about having that empathy. Founders come in different shapes and form. They come in from different journeys. They come from different backgrounds. But if you're going to be on the other side of the table as a VC or part of the plug and play team, always come in with an open mind, right? Don't come in throwing out solutions. Don't come in demanding for allocations. Don't come in starting to negotiate valuations and all these things. It's always about understanding where the founder is coming from, what they're looking to build. It may not be a fit for the fund. That's fine, right? But try to be as helpful as you can in guiding them. So for me, when I really look out or talk to other investors as well, the key thing that I really look out for is can they actually empathize with founders? Because it's not an easy journey. You'll have founders who've been trying to raise for years. You have founders who've been struggling to feed themselves. You have founders who are struggling to figure out how to acquire users. Different types of journeys. So it always helps to understand where they're coming from, rather than judge them and then be aggressive about it and then point out mistakes. Always try to find a common ground and figure things out together, rather than just accusing founders of why they're failing, why they're ending up in this situation. So yeah, I guess it helps to have empathy in this role because it's very relationship driven. If you have good relationship with the founders that you work with, that can translate to more introductions with more founders, and that's the best way to I guess those are one of the best returns of building good relationship. So I guess those two things, curiosity and empathy.
Yeah, it was. I think my two takeaways from this conversation were curiosity, empathy, and then also the unique approach that you guys have towards the venture model. That's quite a unique thing that you guys are doing, and I guess that's kind of propelled you into your success as a fund and as one of the top kind of funds out there in the world. It's amazing to see kind of the journey and learn about the journey and do this deep dive today. So yeah, super grateful to you for coming on the podcast, sharing your insights, and thanks. Special shout out to Fatima as well for making this happen and for making the intro happen.
Thank you so much for your time, Roohi. I appreciate having this conversation. I'm happy to share more about Plug and Play as well to your audience, whoever is listening. And yeah, looking forward to listening to your next few sessions.
Of course, of course. And just a quick one, just share how audience can kind of get in touch with you, how they can like learn more about Plug and Play. Like, now's your stage, kind of to share like your socials or like anything that you want to share. Like, now's the stage.
Yeah, sure. I think the best way to find Plug and Play is in our LinkedIn page. We're quite active on LinkedIn as well. So shout out to our marketing team for always doing a good job on that. Plugandplayapac.com, I think that should be our website. And yeah, we post our events on a regular basis. We have demo days for our startups. And yeah, I think if you want to get involved with our activities around the region, we have a newsletter as well that goes out on a monthly basis, bi-monthly basis as well. So yeah, feel free to stay connected. We're definitely one of the most active players in the ecosystem here. So yeah, well, hopefully I'll get to see some of you guys at our events.
Of course, of course. I think we have a like audience in India and US which is quite established, and it's just starting to come up in Singapore, which is why like I also wanted to get some Singapore-based guests as well to come on the podcast. Like, starting with you, and I think before that I had Jeremy as well, though I did that like virtually with him.
Yep.
So yeah, just trying to get more introduced to the ecosystem as well and meet more people. And I think in person is just 100 times better than doing it online, because you get to actually meet the person, you get to talk to them, you get to learn.